The okay, I was going to say the kind of guy who would just obsess about 75 cents or whatever the typo was on that, right? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, fair enough, right? Which is all good. 5 cents or whatever the. So I'm just doing a quick double check on sound. On that, right? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, fair enough, right? Oh, you know what I need to do? Hold on a second. I got to make a change real quick. On my voice settings on Discord. There we go. Just to go to the streaming on that one. Everyone, you can still hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right.
Oh, sorry, I forgot I'm not.
Which is all good. 5 cents or whatever the. So I'm just doing a quick double check on sound. On that, right? Yeah, yeah. Hang on. What am I? Yeah, yeah. Fair enough. Right. Hang on. Just doing what I need to do. Hold on a second. I got to make a change real quick. Just making a quick echo check. My voice settings on Discord. There we go. Just to go to the streaming on that one. Everyone, you can still hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Okay, good. We got full audio. It always takes about at least 20 seconds to do that check because I've got to wait for the latency out to YouTube, which I've never been able to. I mean, I don't know if it's solvable or if it's just inherent in the way YouTube does its thing. But there's always that goofy built-in delay. So I don't know. I'm going to be streaming here to all of my 305G friends in just a second. In about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Boom. We good? So yeah, Eric, this was kind of my question, whether it was like just the way that streaming works, and there's just that built-in delay. It's one of the reasons that we pivoted when I first started doing this last spring. We started initially just running class on YouTube, and the latency was just brutal for any kind of give and take. You know, you'd wait, you'd to ask a question to wait. So, yeah, okay. I figured I poked around a little bit, and it just seemed like it was built in. So. Alrighty, so here's the deal for today. So I'm still, as you know, I posted another announcement. I trust that that's all still working. But yeah, I think that the classic Franklin is like 7 seconds, I think is the classic delay for radio. Somebody want to look that up? Double check whether Dr. K knows what the crap he's talking about. And then after we see whether I'm correct, if I'm correct, I'll reveal to you my my sort of memory trick for always remembering that it's actually 7 seconds on that, and why that would stick. Gosh, I don't know. But somebody look that up and post to the chat. Maybe would be fantastic. Okay. So here's what we're doing. We're just wrapping up Orders of Ignorance. I am so frickin' tired, and I don't even know why. Some of you, a couple of you are in 2810. I mentioned there earlier that I think my body's trying to hibernate. That's my operational theory. I just have this craving to just eat a lot of berries and then sleep. I don't know. I am old. Thank you for noticing. Okay, so 7 seconds is standard, right? And the trick for memorization is the song by Steely Dan. Not Steely Dan, Donald Fagen. It was the first Donald Fagen solo album called The Night Fly. About a guy who's a radio station nighttime DJ. And the song, if you're interested, it's a killer song. And it begins, I'm Lester the Night Fly. Hello, Baton Rouge. Anyway, just check it. If you're interested in the song, check it out. In the lyrics is the line, respect the 7 second delay we use. and so forever in my head, that's never going to go away. But I'll appear to be like extra smart and knowledgeable, but mostly just a kind of a Steely Dan fan. Also recommend that to you younger tykes. If anybody has not yet discovered the beauty that is the Dan, I strongly recommend the full catalog of Steely Dan. That's where I'm operating at right now. I'm fatigued, I want to hibernate, and I want to talk about Steely Dan. Go ahead and hate me. I don't care at this point. At least I'm not as pissy as I was last time. Probably too tired to be extra pissy today. But I do want to talk about finish wrapping up talking about the Orders of Ignorance. If we're done early, we're done early. It's okay, and then I can. And anybody that wants to drop Steely Dan references for the rest of class in the chat, it'll make me happy. You can, it's one way to suck up to Dr. K is to drop Steely Dan references. Okay. Are there any lingering housekeeping issues? So one thing, let me reiterate something. So I pivoted the first two smallish blog posts. We did do the one current event, which we talked about, and I said you can revise that. And we haven't yet really descended on the grading because I wanted to have enough of a body of gradability that we could hit it and, calibrate ourselves on the grading side. And I wanted to give you a chance to... Wait, hang on. Can everybody else see video? Is only Wayne not seeing video, or are others not seeing video?
I see video.
Okay. All right, Wayne, it's just you. We hate to inform you. That's right. Sorry, man. Sorry. It's okay, but at least you know how to solve it. Okay. So what I wanted to say is, let me see, where are we at here? Okay. Sorry, I just wanted to see. Okay. So just to understand something, where I can, especially where it's my first time in this organization here at UVU, had the thing rolling like clockwork at my other place, and so we're still kind of bootstrapping, and there's a handful of things that I haven't done previously because we've got a little more room on the schedule to do that with 3 hours. So we're figuring this out, and in the middle of all that, I want you to be writing. We've talked a bit about writing. I want you to be writing, and I want you to be thinking, and that's why this whole first really couple weeks is about writing and thinking. It's kind of a prereq, I think, to really going into all these topics that we're dealing with, right? Let me see. So the bottom line, I'm going to get to Tyler's comment here in a second. But the bottom line is, where I can see that you're making a good effort, that you care. I mean, really, truly just that you care and are doing stuff and taking kind of ownership per the fish story. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be content with that. And, and those of you that have had me before, some of you are still like, I don't know, it feels like a trap. Cue the memes. But for those of you that have had me before, if you could just do a little testification about that this is how I roll, that it's really, really true, and that I won't shaft you when the dust settles for failing to, read my mind properly. So that's why, some of you were like, yeah, I wasn't sure what the subject would be, so I just did a blog post about writing. Great. Or I know we haven't really done readings on history, but I have some ideas about history. Great. So really, as long as, yeah, thanks, Erica. This is 100. Well, Erica has, I think you've been in at least, well, I think that Erica's been in 3 classes when I taught them the very first time. That, in other words, if Erica, if you'd shown up later, is that true?
Yeah, that's probably true.
I think you were in like the first run of all three of those. So yeah, this is what it looks like when I'm bootstrapping a class in real time, and everybody comes along for the ride. We have some good time. The feedback to me is huge. I did see the article about this guy playing Doom on a pregnancy test, which is just so freaking awesome. I could hardly contain myself. That is history of computing, and if you want to write about that, knock yourself out. So you understand that I don't really care, so much in a class like this. It's about the exploration, and at the end of the day, everyone has got to kind of follow their own heart. There's something that hooks you or drags you or draws you into some thinking. Go there, focus there more. If there's one topic that tends to always come back as it's on your mind right now, great, process on that, even if it shows up a bunch of times, whatever it happens to be. So, back to Tyler's question. For our assignment for blog comments, what if the blog owner has a comment review process and our comments don't show up by the due date? Should we turn comments on to auto approve? You know what? If you would, so number one, I'm not going to be overly persnickety. I mean, mostly I'm going to be like, you tell me if you did it, and we're going to give you credit for that. We're mostly not going to run around, hunting to validate. But you put the link, so that gives us the ability to double check. So I think that makes sense, right, Tyler? But when you have a blog where it requires you to do that, while the semester is going on, it would be nice if you could just turn on that auto approve, or just be super diligent, And I don't know what kind of spam crap is going to show up. In fact, I think there was a spam on one of the lectures I've posted this semester, and I'm just making a note to myself to go fix that. Okay, let me see. Okay, and then Wayne mentioned that when you're blogging on Medium, that you can only comment if you're a member. Now, okay, related question for Wayne. Is that one of those things where you can set it up for guest comments? Or is it literally only that on Medium you have to be a member on Medium, and because there's a lot of you that have done your blogs on Medium, and I think it's a good thing. So I don't know if we just sort of like, make everybody that wants to comment on Medium just get I don't know. So if you can clarify, Wayne, that would be great. There's also a fair amount. I don't even know. I would probably say it's about half and half. So one approach. So one approach is to, if you don't want to join Medium, so let's make a note, okay? If somebody can help me, and then same with Wix.com for comments. Can somebody get a little more chapter and verse on that? Is there a way to do guest comments on those platforms? The alternative is just hit those that are not on those other platforms. I didn't even think about that. I bet nobody did. I mean, somebody somewhere in the world, but not in this class. Shoot. But let's do some research, okay? And I'll do the same. But if somebody, wants to zone out of our conversation right now and do a little bit more homework and drop that in the chat, that would be great. Okay, there any other housekeeping? Anything else? Historically, with things like Blogger, WordPress, things like that, you had that ability to do guest comments kind of easily. I don't know. Also, and then Eric asked, if we decide to change where we do our blog, is that a problem? No, not at all. Not a bit. Just, just update me with the link. Just hit me on DM on Discord and update me with the link, and I'll just change the blog rule. So for some of you, it's like, nah, it's no big deal. I'd rather, whatever, save the hassle, and you can pivot. All good. And then I'll poke around as well in Medium and Wix. Okay. Anything else? Any other updates? And Eric, so Eric said, thinking about making your own site. Some people have done their own, rolled their own. And as long as you've got the key aspects of a blog where posts, it kind of pushes it like a stack. So the most recent is at the top, and you have the ability to drop comments. As long as it has the features of a blog, I don't have a problem with rolling your own. It's probably not a bad experience. Okay, I'm going to dive in. Should I dive into Orders of Ignorance? A little more. Okay. All right. Let's figure out if anybody has any more things they want to share about Medium and Wix. It would be probably really helpful to everybody to drop in the comments. Oh, and one other thing. Where is it? It would be probably really on. Let me drop this, just the current. That's the current. That's right now. That's the streaming, the link for streaming right now. Okay. And then let me just do one other thing while I'm thinking about it, and then we'll be done with that stuff. Actually, I'm going to use this opportunity to show you a couple things I've done to the schedule so everybody understands what the freak. All right, I just dropped a link in the schedule. I'm trying to do that every time, and if I just take a minute and do it, then it's done. And that is helpful. Okay, one other thing. Come on. Okay, almost there. Okay. All right, and then what I'm going to do is just drag this over here and then blow it up. Don't know why. Now this is also, can I just say, if anybody from InStructure is watching, I got all this real estate. Give me it, man. Give it to me. Don't be doing this to me. Let's blow it up. And I just wanted to show you, just how cool I am and how hardworking I am, in case there's any question about that. But what I did was I dropped in wherever it was happening. I put in a section that I just called books just for fun. And I put just for fun so nobody would get confused. Well, almost nobody would get confused and think, wait, we have to read all those books every 2 days? Yeah, that's exactly it. So, all right. And what I try to do is just, as I would come across ideas and titles and things like that, and so, cool. So the first one, by the way, I went looking for this one and I couldn't find it. Ignorance, How It Drives Science. This was the book when we were talking about ignorance. And there are a lot of cool nuggets, but, for example, statements like all models are wrong, but some are useful. For example, here's a couple other quotes. The ignorance of a subject is the motivating force. Great scientists, the pioneers that we admire, are not concerned with results, but with the next questions. That is absolutely the orders of ignorance. Enrico Fermi, the physicist, told his students that an experiment that successfully proves a hypothesis is a measurement. One that doesn't is a discovery. I think that's amazing. A discovery and uncovering of new ignorance, constantly driving. This book is, I now remember, very good, but I had to go find it, okay? I also realized that I'm going to make a note. I'm going to add on to this a classic book by Thomas Kuhn entitled The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. And it's tremendous. It's also an absolute classic. And if somebody wants to drop, the link to ignorance, I put links here so you can just go right there. It just defaults to Amazon, so you can go scout it a little bit more. Okay. Let's see. The other books that, in fact, hang on, I got to grab one for you. Hold on. The next one down there in the section on where we have a little more on creativity is this book by Ed Catmull called Creativity, Inc. Overcoming the Unseen Forces that Stand in the Way of True Inspiration. It's actually kind of almost like the history of Pixar. And no, we did not get a Google Doc for approved books. But anything I throw up here is approved. Anything... Yeah, do we want... Wait. Did somebody make one? I'm having a flashback to maybe somebody making one, but I might be just making that up in my head. Hang on. I'm getting too many books on my desk. But I wanted to say I really, really recommend this book by Catmull. It's amazing. It's a really... Mine is just marked to high heaven. Just a lot of highlight and red ink in my copy. I really, really recommend it. Did someone just make it? Is that Trevor? Did you just make that one?
Yeah.
All right.
Just did a
Awesome.
Google Sheet.
Thank you. So we can put all of these, and then anybody, if you wouldn't mind, anybody who's already had a book approved by me can just go drop it in there. That would be great. And we can live edit some of that, like while we're in class, right? Catch up a little bit. But I just wanted to point you to this book, Ignorance, and to this book, Creativity, Inc. They're both approved. Ignorance being a little smaller, but it's kind of, it's a little dense. Creativity, Inc., again, amazing. Then when I got to writing, I already showed you my copy of Strunk and White, but then I went looking, and I didn't grab all of them, but On Writing by Stephen King, I mentioned in class. Now, the writing books are not approved. They're recommended, but they're not approved because I want the reading and for the reading groups to be more drilled into the computers and society and the ethical aspect. The writing stuff is just really critical outside of that. Shoot, did I not grab... Hold on. You have to see this. Hold tight. I mean, you don't strictly have to see these, but I wanted to show off. This was the Stephen King on writing, which will come in different forms. But this one is an absolute classic about punctuation. It's entitled Eats, Shoots, and Leaves, which, you see it? It's fantastic. Little pandas. Pandas are cute, right? So, punctuation, it can save your life. So I really recommend these books on writing. And I also recommend this one entitled Woe Is I, The Grammarphobe's Guide to Better English in Plain English. I recommend this as well. There's a lot of, anyway, we can get down to it. I just want to say the Dr. K Memorial Grammar Award given to the rock and roll band who manages to pull off the most grammatically accurate but gutsy move goes to, Lifetime Award goes to Hoobastank for, any guesses? If I Were You. Thank you, Hoobastank, for being grammatically correct. And then there's a I don't even know what we call it. The Poop Award goes to everybody in all of the history of rock and roll music and pop music that uses the expression you and I incorrectly. Okay, you and me is often what you ought to be doing. Anyway, so that's kind of the grammarphobe, which I think is kinder than saying grammar Nazi. You know what I mean? There's kind of that expression. That's a little harsh. And then I went looking for my copy of Code, and I think it might be in my office at UVU, like I'm ever going to go there again after teaching online forever. And we talked about engines in the mind, so I dropped it in. We talked about hackers, I dropped it in. And not quite. So I just wanted you to know that I was putting stuff out there. And then I wanted to throw two others at you that I think are great. One of them I just bought based upon, I can't remember who it was that was recommending this one. This one about gender, Invisible Women, Data Bias in a World Designed for Men. It looks fantastic. And it's on the stack. I'm excited to read it. What else? And then this one is actually an older book that I read sometime back by Clay Shirky, Cognitive Surplus. We'll get to this one. And it really has to do with when you no longer have to haul around with all that information in your head because you've got Google. Rather than that making us dumber, maybe it makes us more creative. And Shirky is like one of my all-time favorite authors, researchers, speakers on the subject of technology and society, actually. So, and there are really only two major books by Shirky. Cognitive Surplus was kind of the second one. And this one I think I showed you called Here Comes Everybody. And I think I told you about what I did with Here Comes Everybody, which is what I call the Tour de Shirky, where I went through the book. And as you can see, I highlighted every spot where Shirky references a paper or a book by someone else. And then I just go read it. Because it's like, okay, if Shirky's so freaking brilliant, I want to know what he's reading. You know, I want to know what his sources are. Anyway, that's probably, it's good for now anyway, okay? But I did want you to see what I was doing with this. And then the other thing I'm going to do, yeah, so Eric, it's a good question. People have made that proposal. That endless amounts of information at our fingertips make us dumber because the stuff we used to know we look up. And I'm not sure. I don't necessarily buy it, but I think it's always a give and take. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to go back to the schedule and stretch these dates out to reflect reality through today, and then just push that other history of computing down, and then shuffle a little bit of what's down there, and we'll make it work. We should be cool with that, right? Okay. All right, yeah, and good comment about Jan's. Yeah, and then we've got. Oh yeah. So Tuesday, I've got to confirm with Jan Newman. So what I wanted to do when I was lining up somebody to come talk about entrepreneurship, I was doing a little catalog in my head of the number of people that I know, like well enough to go have lunch with. I mean, it kind of means like they know my name. You know, it's not like just I met them once or whatever. You know what I mean? I was in the same room with Bill Gates once. It doesn't count. But people that I knew well enough that they would know my name and we could go grab lunch or whatever, that had founded billion-dollar companies from scratch, right? Had been there at the ground level when a billion-dollar company was founded. And there's a few of those. One would be the founder of Ancestry. One would be the founder of Instructure. What's that? I heard somebody cry out in the anguish of their soul or something.
I think it was somebody's music cutting through.
It sounds like anguish of soul. Anyway, so I didn't do a thorough list because I've had Jan speak in this class when I was doing the equivalent at BYU, and he's just great. And we'll talk a little bit, you know, but he's scheduled for Tuesday. I got to confirm. Now, fortunately with COVID, everyone's going to be remote. And so historically, my philosophy has been when you get the right people to come speak to you, if you get the right people, the people you really want are very busy and they get conflicted. So I'm not shocked if, you know what I mean, if we have to swap out schedule or things like that. But right now, Mr. Newman is on the schedule for Tuesday to talk about entrepreneurship. The other guest speaker I have tentatively lined up is for women in computing. I mentioned my former professor from Oregon State, who was might even be the pioneer in gender and computing, and Margaret Burnett. And so she's tentatively confirmed to speak to us, but I got to kind of nail down the dates and stuff. And there's probably, I don't know if there's another one or two topics that just are begging to have a guest speaker. But if you have ideas, not just even about people, but just about topics, because my network's pretty broad, and once I know if there's a topic that we really think would be amazing, I can often go pump my network and get us hooked up. So anyway, Jan is one of the people that I know personally that has founded a billion-dollar company, and stories. So, okay, my friends, everybody good with that? It's all madness right now. It's all madness. And then, as always happens, next semester, the students, they have no idea what you all went through, and they'll be just thinking I'm an organizational genius, and then you'll be just like, yeah, no, it's all good. But no, Dr. K is not an organizational genius. He just fake it till you make it, and eventually we make it. So it's all good. Okay, I want to talk about orders of ignorance. Shall we? What say you?
Do it.
Let's do it. Some of you are like, Dr. K, you always say we might end early, and you never do. So that's true. But today I feel different. I feel tired. Yeah, okay. All right. So here's the parts we already went through. We did Calvin and Hobbes, right? Calvin starts to see things, both sides of things, and it just screws him up. Thought we did. And there's a lot of Calvin and Hobbes going on out there in the world right now. And then I don't think we got to, I think I jumped ahead to kind of an interlude. But I want to start back here and build this up from scratch and then talk at length about it. And in no case shall we go beyond 6:45. And my lips hurt real bad. Okay. Thank you. So Orders of Ignorance. I owe a lot to my friend Phil Armour, and the thing about, I want to show you. I don't have the book. Okay, ugliest book cover in the history of computing books. This was one of those situations where one of my students. Yeah, I'm gonna do the makeup tutorial. Yeah, you don't want to see what it takes to allow me to look like this. So Phil writes this book. I think he's brilliant. And so one of my grad students, when I was at BYU, just one day, he's just like, Chuck, there's a book. I just came across it. Because we were studying software process, software engineering, the way in which teams build software, right? And he's just like, and he just shows me this book, and it's this butt ugly title. Actually, would somebody mind, or maybe I'll do it. I just have to show you the butt ugly cover. Because it's just truly the ugliest cover in the history of amazing books. The Laws of Software Process. Hang on a second. And it has, at this point, it's obscure by now, but it's okay because it lives on in my world. Okay, here we go. Where are you? Yeah, so let me just show you this real quick. So there's the cover. Now, is that or is that not? And I don't think Phil's going to disagree with. Well, I know Phil doesn't disagree because I've already told him that this is the butt ugliest cover in the history of software books. Everyone buying? The Laws of
Countertop.
It looks like countertop tile, yeah, or countertop granite or something, yeah. The Laws of Software Process. So, and to me though, the problem is it's so much more profound than that. That's all I want to say. Armour really did kind of change my life. So Dan, my grad student, comes to me and says, "You really got to read this book." I'm like, "Great!" I acquire a copy. I read it. My brain explodes, and then ever after, I'm teaching it as a foundation. Okay, so that's why we're doing this. I do think it makes a huge difference. So, the orders of ignorance. There's basically 5 orders of ignorance. The highest order of ignorance, which is 4th order. I'm not even really going there. It's like Phil calls it meta-level ignorance. It's sort of like ignorance about the orders of ignorance. You don't even know. You say things like, "I think you're overthinking this," and so you can overthink things. But I'm just saying there's some times where thinking at all is overthinking, and the orders of ignorance invite you to think a little more deeply about certain things. So we're really kind of ignoring that. Okay, we're kind of going from 0 to 3, 0 to 3. That's what's interesting to us. 0th order ignorance is provable knowledge, provable lack of ignorance about a certain thing. Put another way, notationally, I know the question and I know the answer. I know that I know it, right? What's my middle name? I know it. Most of you probably don't. What's the last 4 digits of my social? I know that, right? I'm just saying there are things that each of us knows that maybe there are things each of us knows that literally nobody in the world knows, right? And so that's it. And your action item at 0th order of ignorance is just kind of like, whatever, just know something, look smart, get a grade. And the challenge I think that we have is that a lot of what we deem as education, really takes the form of trying to just drive people to zeroth order ignorance. And herein lies the problem, okay? Because at first order ignorance, the goal is you know the question, but you don't know the answer. I did my own notation here, which is I know the question, that's Q, I don't know the answer, so that's not A, okay? And I know that I don't know it. I mean, I do know that there's a question, and I do know that I don't know the answer to that question, right? Like, pick, anybody in the class, and what's your middle name? I don't know any of them. What's your social security number? I don't know any of them. And in some instances, I might feel dumb or embarrassed, but I shouldn't. We talked a bit about that, right, already. But the goal at first order ignorance, yeah, Tyler, it's called the laws of software process. Just put that there. The goal is to find out the answer. Now, there are instances in which there exists a first order ignorance question for which, figuring out the answer is elusive. Does P equal NP if you've gone to that level? Is there a God? There are questions. I'm not putting P equals NP on the same stratum as, the existence of God. I'm just trying to say that there are questions, right? There are science questions, math questions, all kinds of questions that we just don't know the answers to. But we full well know what the question is, right? There are other situations where we think we know the answer, but we actually don't know the question, okay, which is another brand of confusion entirely. For example, I have seen this one, you have as well, I'm sure, a bumper sticker that says, first of all, bumper stickers, you're almost always in trouble before you start. Trying to have a philosophical conversation that begins or ends with a bumper sticker. But how many of you have seen a bumper sticker that says, war is not the answer? Right? Anyone, you've seen it, right? Okay, what's my question? Me being Dr. K and knowing me as well as you know now after almost 3 weeks of this, what's the question? Yeah, my question is not, haha, are you stupid, Michelle? No, my question is, what is the question? Because the reality is that when you ask certain questions, it is true that war is not the answer. But I think that war, as Eric just said, I think war can be an answer. Right? I think war can be an answer. Now you get into some deep philosophy at that point, or maybe not so deep. Do you go to Europe and fight Nazis? To save the world? Not to mention the remaining half of the Jews? I think you do, and I think in that instance, war, in fact, is the answer. But in other words, it's a platitude. It's a platitude, but it doesn't hold up to scrutiny in any kind of absolute sort of an analysis. But I think it's true, pretty much across the board. That these things are that bumper stickers are almost always platitudes, right? Then you get into stuff like, my son is an honor student, right? At blah, you've seen that one, right? And then my personal favorite, my son can beat up your honor student, which is like, now you're just messing. Now you're just trolling at that point. Anyway, and then you've got my personal favorite story, which is the guy who sees the bumper sticker that goes, honk if you love Jesus. So he honks and the guy flips him off. I think there was a miscommunication there somewhere. You know what I mean? I think the guy with the Jesus bumper sticker lost track that he was messaging, that he was broadcasting a message and misunderstanding the signals when somebody lays on the horn with enthusiasm and gets this other thing, right? Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I'm just trying to say, in the first order of ignorance, you do know the question, and the answer is either very elusive or certainly not clear. And you're tempted to feel dumb, and your to-do item is to figure it out. Now, this is also really key in education, whether we're talking about university or high school or whatever, there's this thing where what we do a lot of times is we tell you that there are well-known questions and there are well-known answers, right? Like, what's the first person present conjugation of the verb to speak, in Italian? Io parlo. So there's a question, there's a well-known answer. There's a ton of that. And the truth is, you do have to know a bunch of that. But the problem is not having to learn. Thank you for the Schoolhouse Rock is what that was, and the very, very famous conjunction junction. But you know what I mean, though? There is an aspect of that that I think is important. I don't think you can function learning to be a translator, for example, if you don't know what other words mean and how to conjugate verbs in the target language you're learning. Or you have to know a bunch of things. The problem is that those are all the automatable things, right? Eventually, you got to feel like sooner or later everyone will carry a translator, and as I'm speaking, they'll just have their little earbuds in or whatever, and they'll just be hearing my language almost in real time. Sometimes you got to wait till the end of the sentence to parse back because of the way structure is, right? You have like German, which is like a stack-based language, whatever, and you got to wait to unwrap it, till you get all the way to the end, and then you can like run some kind of weird functional programming thing on it or something. But there are languages like that. But anyway, you know what I'm trying to say. And so, the problem is where we don't do enough in my. Eric, is that really true? That Google makes earbuds that translate lectures in real time? That'd be awesome. All of a sudden, it's like, what he's trying to say is, that'd be fantastic. Like, okay, yeah, no, that's fantastic, right? I'd love it if the earbuds in lecture are just going, he's going to ramble on for a while now. I'm going to play you some Foo Fighters. It'll help to keep your spirits up instead of trying to go on this weird, desperate journey he's trying to take you on. Okay. But here's the interesting thing. There was another book the book is called The World is Flat. If somebody wants to drop that. That's another really, really amazing book, I thought. Why am I blanking on the author? If somebody wants to look that up and drop it in the comments, that would be great. It's gonna make me crazy because I usually pretty good with this sort of thing.
Thomas Friedman.
Thomas Friedman, yeah, exactly. I thought the book was just absolutely fantastic. And one of the things that Friedman talks about in this flattening of the world with the notion of outsourcing and offshoring is that he didn't put it together, but I did, that the first order, zeroth and first order ignorance is all outsourceable, right? I can automate taking your order at the drive-thru, right? There are ways of automating that because that's a function that can be replaced by machinery, right? And that's been the growth of machinery going all the way back to the Luddites, if you want to go back to the Industrial Revolution and folks, who were very worked up about the destruction of the weaving industry and were, rioting and breaking looms because it was costing jobs. Anyway, that's another topic about the advance of technology and its impact on people, right? When your job is outsourced, right? I think I told you about the book I have that is entitled "My Job Went to India and All I Got Was This Book," I think was the title of the book. So, but somehow we get locked into a world in which we view education this way. And I think that the number one reason why we do that is because of scalability. I think that if we really had a mentorship like like there used to be, that there would be a lot more one-on-one teaching and mentoring and training and, learning how to be, because how do you teach creativity and how do you nurture creativity and how do you grade creativity? How do you grade creativity with a multiple choice exam? Okay, by definition, you don't. And then everything's very subjective. So I think that we do this because everything else is struggles with scalability. That's my own theory. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that zeroth and first order ignorance are just not interesting. And they just kind of deal with facts. Well-known questions, well-known answers. I'm going to teach them to you. Then later on, I'm going to take away the answer, ask you the well-known question. You're going to regurgitate the well-known answer. And we're going to call that education. And again, it is a part of education, but it is not the most interesting and innovative part of education. Okay. Which is the creativity, especially in the software industry. Okay. Now, I talked at length about this, and I think we covered all of this. Isn't it true? We talked about all this in my previous speech.
Yep.
Everyone's agreeing with that? Cool. Second order ignorance. Second order ignorance is when you don't even know it was a question. You didn't even know there was a question. But you do have a framework for generating questions. Okay? By the way, I just saw the comment about AI taking jobs. There was a book that somebody had asked if they could do for the books, for the second book. What I'm doing this semester for the most part is if you ask for permission about a book to read for the second book and I don't have it, then I just buy it. So I thought it was video killed the radio star, Franklin. And then if anybody can answer the trivia question, that's the answer to a trivia question that will get you no, it's not the same. It's not the same diff because video killed the radio star as a quote refers to a very specific thing that TV killed the radio star does not. Anybody? Thank you, Tyler. What else? What about MTV? I'm just saying, there was the first video shown on MTV, what was the year? 1980, 81, something like that. Was the video for the song Video Killed the Radio Star, 81, thank you. And the band? Buggles. You want to edit that, Wayne. But, okay, so back to the original question. Anyway, actually, a great song, but, so Jacob asked, what about situations where we know the answer but not the question? Can you give an example? I'm asking you, can you give an example where we know the answer? No, I think that's actually profound because, I'll give you an example of that, maybe. Oh my gosh. No, actually, this is the premise of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, right? Yeah, 42. Because 42 was an answer, right? What was the name of the big computer, right? The Earth was a big computer. Spoiler, if you haven't read the Hitchhiker's Guide series, deep thought. Thank you, my fellow fans of Douglas Adams. But after calculating and grinding, it came up with the answer 42, and then it led them to ask themselves what the question had been in the first place. And then some had postulated that perhaps because they wanted to know what the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything. That was the spec. It grinds, it goes 42. And then somebody then was like, well, maybe the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything is, what is 6 times 7? I don't know. I think that Douglas Adams is unfortunately died way too young. And thank you for the Buggles. Oh, way to pull it out of the hat. The Buggles. Going way back, way in the well. I was 21 when that thing happened. So anyway, something that I want to just say one other thing. Something that Douglas Adams said. They published a book. It was posthumous, which means after he was dead, called "The Salmon of Doubt," and it was kind of half of the book was the unfinished Next Hitchhiker's book, and then the other half were just a series of essays. And in that book, "The Salmon of Doubt" by Douglas Adams, he made this comment. I'm paraphrasing. It deserves dusting off, which I really should. I'm going to make a note to myself to go get that out of "The Salmon of Doubt." But basically what he said was that this relates to technology and the phases of life that we're in and the generations, but that anything that comes along, I don't think it was 6 times 9, but anything that comes along when you're in your, kind of your teenage years, young adult years, it's new, it's exciting, and you can probably make a career in it. That's sort of, anything that comes along, well, the first one was anything that just exists as you come of age is just the way the world is, right? So if you grew up in a world in which the internet already was a thing, you don't conceptualize a world without it, right? But if you're like a teenager, young adult, early in your career when the thing shows up, then it's new and it's exciting. And then anything that shows up technologically after like age 40 is, contrary to the will of God, and against the laws of nature somehow. And the cool thing about this sort of an exploration is that it's like always true. You know what I mean? It's like always true. The looms were going to, ruin the economy. Everything that's new, everything that's new is shocking to the older generation. And what's cool is when that current older generation that's shocked by whatever's new, when they were like teenagers and it was the Beatles, their parents were shocked, So it's a perpetual revolution. So, yeah, insert TikTok joke. Okay, so so let me give you one example of second order ignorant that's a true story. I don't think I shared this with you. Maybe I did, but I'm at this tell me if I shared this story. But I'm at this new faculty dinner 20 years ago at BYU, and when I was new on faculty over there. And one of these, I was at a dinner and there was a professor, and I think it was in the accounting program. And somebody was like, they were just talking about how people don't understand what you do as a professor, And he's like, I'm talking to my family, and they're like, so you teach? And then, and when you're a research faculty, that's a little offensive because it's a lot more than teaching. And so he's like, no, we don't just teach, we do research, and there's a lot of things we do, but research is probably the biggest thing we do. And then he's telling the story about how he's like, then my brother-in-law was like, what do you do for research in accounting? Right? And then, and then he starts laughing, that awkward laugh. Like goes, my brother-in-law, like, what do you do for research in accounting? And he's like, can you believe that guy? What? And he does the awkward laugh thing, and I'm sitting there just going, I didn't ask it, because it was obvious to him what you did for research in accounting. And it was not obvious to anybody else at the table what you did for research in accounting. Okay? Now, this is the really important thing. I was sitting there just going, I don't know what you do for research in accounting. But that was an indication of my own ignorance about accounting and what you do for research. I have no idea. I still don't. 20 years later. Why? Because I don't care. Right? And there are people who have no idea why there's research in computer science. I heard this once from somebody who was a mechanical engineering grad student, and he said his own professor had said, I don't know why there's an entire department of computer science. I mean, it's not like we don't have programming languages. Okay, what is that a reflection of? Ignorance about the field of computer science. So it's the orders of ignorance. So the problem is having a framework that allows you to ask the questions. Okay? Now then there's this one, which was given to me last school year. And this is a good graphic to illustrate what it is I'm talking about, right? Stuff you know you don't know, and then there's all the other stuff you don't even know you don't know. Only problem, not to scale. The green and blue wedges are way too big, okay, to be done to scale. Okay. In third order ignorance, you don't have a framework. So like I said, in second order ignorance, you have a framework, and out of that framework comes questions. In third order ignorance, you don't even have a framework. Okay? And so you're not generating any questions. Like, I don't possess the framework to actually be able to talk about what the good research questions in accounting would be. I would have to go create a framework. So the to-do item here is to figure out a framework that would allow me to generate interesting questions. So just real quick, what would I do? Now, some of you may really care about the accounting research questions. I don't think I do, because I don't know enough to know whether I do. But what would you do? Just drop them in the either voice or drop them in the chat to generate a framework. Just throw them. This is lightning round, so just drop them in. You can look up in Google. Ask someone who knows where I should look for more info. But by the way, and Jonathan, I want to be really clear about this. I don't think the answer is ask somebody who knows what the questions are, because that's not building a framework. That's bypassing the framework. Pray to the computer gods. No, this is accounting. Thanks, Wayne. Meta-level ignorance. What is accounting? You are all so disappointing to me. Let's see. Come on. Yeah, read anything adjacent to the topic. Thank you, Mason. You ask accounting. Yeah, right. Ask accounting people what they wish they know. What they wish they knew. Spelled wrong. Wayne doesn't know still. Business budget maximization. I don't even know what that means, Michelle. Ask more questions. Yeah, but here's the bottom line. You know what I would do? I would start by actually studying accounting. How about that? Or go get the degree yourself. Or drop into the catalog over at the accounting school to just see what the classes are. Read the course descriptions. You know, go hit the accounting journals. What are the papers being published in the accounting journals? Every paper is trying to go after some topic, some question, right? Trying to explore and answer some question. You know? So no, everyone's got time for that, but it depends on what the topic is, okay? So that is what's going on. That's what's going on. So here's an example, just in table form, in case you're missing it. Here's my little table. I just made this, right? So there's our 4 orders of ignorance from 0th to 3rd. Whether there's an answer, question, and a framework, okay? And what you're trying to do is where you do the work is in the transitions from no to yes, okay? So, for example, when we are, when I know the question, but I don't know the answer, there's the work. When I don't know what the question is, I don't have a question, I have a framework, so I got to create the question. That's the work. I got to create a framework. That's the work. Okay. So it's always in those transitions. The other thing to keep in mind about the orders of ignorance is that it's not like you are like my whole world and I'm a 3 and you're a 2. No, it's like you're simultaneously 0s, 1s, 2s, and 3s in like a million areas. Thousands and thousands and thousands of individual spaces. I say accounting, you don't know much. I say, what have you guys had? Python, some of you know at least enough to ask the question, or you've had programming languages, and there's some ideas and things that are percolating in your head. Oh, don't be dissing on Python. It's a great language. So this is again the key. There's very little of interest at the 0th and first order. Okay? All the major contributions happen at the third order ignorance when you're creating new frameworks. Okay? And the second order when you're asking new questions. Fight me. Change my mind. Every major contribution happens at second and third order ignorance. That's where the creation happens. That's where all the jobs are built. That's why, here's a hot take. There are people like Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos. I'm just trying to articulate a handful of famous billionaires who were either themselves tech people or who built organizations that were heavily, I'm starting a holy war, who were heavily dependent upon technology. Okay? Their big thing was to create frameworks that had never been created before and to ask questions that had never been asked before. Like, what would happen if you just made a commitment to delivering everybody's package the next day? Because once we throw those kinds of questions out, but once you ask that question, you're like, well, crap, what would you have to do? And then can you see that? Can you see that? If you start to ask a question like that, when Bill Gates said, that there was going to be a computer on every desktop, you got to understand when he was saying that. It was the mid 70s, for crying out loud, and once you say there's going to be a computer on every desk, and it's the 1970s, you have to start. That's a framework. The question, that statement is a framework. How in the crap would you even do that, right? Anyway, I just think that the big transformative companies and the transformative technologies come with creating frameworks that cause you to ask questions that have not been asked before. Okay? And then here's my problem. My problem, this is the part where I'll start the holy war. And I'm not talking about this in an absolute black and white sense, because I hope you know me better than that. But I am saying that what is it worth to be Bill Gates and to have that idea in your head? What is it worth economically? I mean, I know what it's worth for LeBron James to be LeBron James. And the answer is about $100 million a year. LeBron gets to be LeBron, doing the things that only LeBron can do because he's a freak and he's amazing. And then we can argue about whether he's the greatest ball player ever to live or whether it was MJ. We can have that discussion, but they're both up there. But I'm just trying to say the reason LeBron is worth $100 million a year is because he can do things that no other human can do. And including causing people. Tiger Woods, another good example, right? Tiger Woods burst on the scene of golf. He was, in my mind, the third big revolution. The first was Arnold Palmer. The second was Jack Nicklaus, and the third was Tiger Woods. Every one of them exploded the reach of golf. A guy like Tiger, who doubled or tripled the popularity of an entire Gretzky, yes, who doubled or tripled the popularity of an entire industry. Is that worth I don't know what Tiger's net worth is right now. Got to be pushing $1 billion. I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of millions. Is doing that one thing worth $1 billion? I think so. Is being LeBron for a decade worth $1 billion? I think so. Right? It has to do with, can you do a thing that nobody else can do? Well, when you're dealing with the orders of ignorance, the question is, can you create frameworks that nobody else has created? Can you ask questions that nobody else has asked before? That's Elon Musk. That's all those billionaires. And I'm going to throw Tiger into the same bunch. I'm going to throw Tiger and LeBron in with Jeff Bezos. because they all did things. So go ahead, Erica. I mean, I'm not going to get into it because we don't have time, but I am intrigued about the degree to which Musk is or isn't. But he is willing to act on crazy ideas, no question. But the notion of whether he's original. Okay, what about this, Erica? One of the early Teslas, Musk came up. I don't know who came up with the idea, but the idea was that you're driving across country, right? And you stop and you need to do a refill. And you have to sit there for an hour or some period of time to recharge your car. So one of the early design ideas was that you'd actually pull over this bay. They would drop the battery right out of the bottom of your car, set it aside and take a brand new battery, swap it up. And they did a demo early where they had a regular car pull up to a gas pump and they started to fill it with gas. And then I think they ran 3 cars through popping batteries, 3 Teslas that they ran through popping batteries and putting them back up. That is, once you say to yourself, the framework is, I want to be able to drive this car cross country, but it's electric and it'll only go however long on a charge. You have to start thinking new thoughts, and that creates new innovation. That's really where I'm going with all that. Okay. And so, yeah, maybe there's some holy war in there because I am actually saying that, nobody really could be Bill Gates. Nobody could be Tiger Woods. Nobody could be Jeff Bezos. Nobody could be Steve Jobs. And by the way, I'm not saying these are all great people either. I'm not like giving them a pass, right? If you get out of your black and white thinking, you'll see, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there's a market value to creating new frameworks that change the way you think about an entire space. That is worth a lot. Okay? All right. And I'm going to kind of wrap up with this, which is when you get into the software industry, there are different kinds, not just the software industry, but there are different kinds of jobs. There's a tactical job, and by the way, the comments are great, and I wish I could stop and dive in because I think that I'm not going to dive all the way in, but I just want to say, Eric, I think everybody is truly original. That's my counterpoint. Everybody is in fact truly original because no one's got that set of neurons trapped in that same body. No two people have that. And I think every single person is in fact truly original. Now, at greater or lesser degrees, but truly original. Okay, I can't dive in more than that, but tactical, where your job is to do something. You're flipping burgers at McDonald's, you're making fries, okay? You learn how to do that thing, you do it the way you're taught to do it, and everything is going to be okay. You're going to make that same crappy fry. Problem solving, you're trying to fix something. You have the skills, but you just need to figure out what are the particular, oh yeah, my roof is leaking and the wind blows through my door. I know how to do those things. You jump in and you do it. Creative, where you're building, and learning, where you're learning. And that's the one that's probably going to blow the most people away. The idea that there are jobs where the number one thing you do in that job is learn. Does that just freak anybody out? Anybody? Just the notion that your job, when you're software engineers, because you think I'm a computer science undergrad, I pay money to learn. I pay money in order to learn, to get credentialed as much as anything. But then I'm going to get a job and someone's going to pay me and my number one job is going to be to learn? Well, think about it. Yeah, it's good, Mason. Actually, being constantly confused is an indication that you're living in the right space. That's my own sense. If you think you're not at all confused, you're just ignorant about, you just don't know what you don't know. Yeah, but right, so Eric, the learning, everything you do is learning on the job. Here's a spec, learn it. Here's a new language, learn it. New tools, learn it. There's a problem we have to solve. I got to go solve it. How do I solve it? I'm learning stuff. Our job as software developers, software engineers, is constantly to learn. And then we start coding stuff. But the parts where we're coding something that was already inside of our head, it's really, really a small chunk, right? So I think this might be, yeah, that's actually the last slide. I just had to drop that since it's 6:45 and I can, lay claim to something. But I do want to just, chew on that for just a second, that the goal at third order ignorance is to learn stuff, and at second order ignorance you start building stuff. But I want you to be your sort of assignment, if you will, your unofficial assignment is going to be to just look around you at the world that you're interacting with. Check the news, whatever the sites are that you hit. Ask yourself if you're in an echo chamber. Ask yourself if you have given yourself permission to drop into an echo chamber where you only hear voices that agree with you already. It's more comfortable. It's less disruptive. It's less scary. It can be really annoying, to do otherwise. But are you allowing yourself to, to have to deal with thoughts that you don't agree with? I think you cannot live your life in second and third order ignorance. And by the way, it's where you want to be, right? It's like I was talking about before. You're pushing out into where you're ignorant, which means you're pushing out to where you don't have a framework, but you've got to create one. If you stay in the echo chamber, only hearing the things you already agree with, you're not stretching. You're not being asked to be challenged to create new frameworks that are going to cause you to ask brand new questions. And all the innovation is happening where the brand new questions are popping out. And we're out of time, my friends, but we did get through it. And this is important stuff. Let me just say, here's my parting thought. If I had to only teach you two things all semester and focus on, if I had to strip everything away, there were only two things, it would actually be the stuff we've already talked about. It would be writing, and it would be the orders of ignorance and creativity. That is literally the only thing, because everything else is just going to flow from that. So, with that, I am going to, and by the way, I'm going to go back through the comments because they're so amazing, and I'm not able to track them all in real time. But if all goes well, we're going to have Jan here on Tuesday, and we're going to start talking about the history of computing on Thursday. And I'll start to populate more readings. Make sure you've got 2 blog posts by the end of the weekend. 2 smallish blog posts on anything we've talked about, including the upcoming history of computing. Okay? And that will be good. I just want you writing and thinking. That's all. Just thinking and writing and thinking. Okay. Anybody got any last things you need to throw at me? Rotten tomatoes, perhaps? Correct, Brickmeister. It can be on anything. So, in answer to that question, I think that Dash is incorrect. I think Dash's understanding is limited and that he's wrong. But he's just a little boy, albeit remarkably fast. And I think it depends on what you do with it. So there we go. That's my response to the pessimistic, perhaps even nihilistic thought. Anyway, all right. I'm gonna stop the YouTube stream, and then I got a few more minutes where I'll still be on the Discord chat while I'm doing that. So if anybody has anything they want to pester me about, I will be hanging about. And speaking of LeBron, I just had a score go by as I was tabbing over. Lakers kicking the Rockets by 20, which is great because I just really don't like Harden. I don't like his style of play. How's that? Is that a controversial position?
No, he's good enough that he doesn't need to throw the way he does.
The flopping, to me,
Yeah.
he's a flop machine who's just trying to get to the line. I mean, he's skilled like crazy when it comes to just putting the ball in the can. I mean,
Right.
remarkable.
He's too skilled to flop as much as he does. in my opinion.
I'm with you. I'm totally with you on that. I lose a lot of respect. So that's our parting. That's our parting shot for the end of the stream to YouTube.